PlayStation 3 boasts a rich library of exclusive games that have left a lasting impact on the gaming community. These exclusives span various genres, offering unique experiences that are often cited as reasons to own the console. Whether one decides to own one or not, one is likely to enjoy the experience. In this video, we will talk about a few games that players can play and enjoy only on PlayStation hardware 3 and up. Let's go. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, 2009. Alright, buckle up, treasure hunters. We're diving into the wild, action-packed world of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, a game that takes you on a roller coaster ride through exotic locales, all while making you feel like Indiana Jones on steroids. First off, the gameplay. Imagine this. You're Nathan Drake, a charming, wisecracking adventurer who can climb anything, shoot anything, and somehow survive the most ridiculous situations. The game kicks off with a bang, literally. You're hanging off a derailed train that's dangling off a snowy cliff. From there, it's a non-stop thrill ride. The controls are smooth, making it easy to jump, climb, and shoot your way through hordes of enemies. The cover system is intuitive, and the mix of stealth and all-out gunfights keeps things fresh. Plus, the puzzles are just the right amount of brain-teasing, without making you want to throw your controller out the window. Now, let's talk graphics. Holy moly, this game is a visual feast. Whether you're trekking through lush jungles, navigating ancient temples, or running for your life in a war-torn city, the environments are stunning. The attention to detail is mind-blowing, from the realistic water effects to the way snow crunches underfoot, and the character animations top-notch. Nathan Drake's every move is fluid and lifelike, making you feel like you're controlling a real person rather than a bunch of pixels. The audio is another highlight. The voice acting is superb, with Nolan North's performance as Nathan Drake being particularly standout. The banter between characters is witty and often laugh-out-loud funny, adding a layer of charm to the intense action. The soundtrack perfectly complements the game's epic scope, with sweeping orchestral pieces that ramp up the tension during action scenes, and more subdued tracks that enhance the quieter moments. And oh, the plot. It's like a blockbuster movie that you get to play. Nathan Drake is on a quest to find the lost city of Shambhala and the legendary Sintamani Stone. Along the way, he's joined by a colorful cast of characters, including the feisty Chloe Fraser and the ever-reliable Elena Fisher. The story is filled with twists and turns, double crosses, and high-stakes action. It's engaging from start to finish, with plenty of memorable moments that will have you on the edge of your seat.
Metal Gear Solid 4.
Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, 2008. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots is like that one friend who insists on telling you every single detail of their day, but you can't help but be captivated by their storytelling. This game, the magnum opus of Hideo Kojima, is a wild ride through the final chapter of Solid Snake's saga, and it does not disappoint in the spectacle department. This game is a visual feast. The textures are gritty, the lighting is dramatic, and the character animations are so lifelike that you might start questioning your own reality. From the war-torn Middle Eastern cities to the lush, detailed environments, every frame is a testament to the technical prowess of the PS3 era. Even the little details, like Snake rubbing his sore back, add a layer of immersion that is hard to beat. If you enjoy sneaking around like a ninja with arthritis, then you're in for a treat. The stealth mechanics are as tight as Snake's bandana, offering a variety of ways to outsmart your enemies. The game introduces an over-the-shoulder camera for shooting, which feels like a nod to Gears of War, but still retains that classic Metal Gear flavor. However, be prepared for a roller coaster of gameplay styles. One moment you're sneaking through enemy lines, the next you're piloting a Metal Gear, and then you're mashing buttons in a fistfight that feels like a dramatic soap opera climax. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but it's a bag filled with awesome. The plot is where things get, well, let's just say complicated is an understatement. Imagine trying to explain the entire Star Wars saga to someone who's never seen a movie. That's what it feels like to dive into MGS4's story. It's a dense, convoluted web of conspiracies, genetic, engineering, and philosophical musings on war and society. Old Snake, now looking like he could use a good nap and some moisturizer, is on a mission to stop his twin brother, Liquid, who's possessing Revolver Ocelot's body, from plunging the world into chaos. It's a narrative that ties up every loose end from the previous games, sometimes in ways that will make you scratch your head and say, wait, what? But that's part of the charm. It's like a soap opera with guns and robots. The voice acting is top-notch, with David Hayter's gravelly growl as Snake being the standout. The supporting cast does a fantastic job, even if some moments veer into melodrama. The sound effects are equally impressive, from the eerie moos of the geckos to the satisfying clicks of your gear. The soundtrack, while a bit pompous on its own, fits perfectly within the game's grandiose narrative, enhancing every cutscene and battle. Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots is a game that thus swings for the fences and, for the most part, hits a home run.
Ever a dull moment, huh, Sully? Why change now?
Yalla!
Hold this!
Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception 2011. If you thought Nathan Drake couldn't get into more trouble after the last two games, think again. This time, he's chasing the legendary Atlantis of the Sands. And boy, does he find himself in some sticky situations. Nate and his mentor Sully are back at it, trying to outwit a sinister organization led by the ever-so-menacing Marlowe. The story takes you from a bar fight in London to the scorching Arabian desert, with plenty of twists, turns, and oh no, not again moments. Nate's obsession with his ancestor, Sir Francis Drake, drives the narrative, and we even get a peek into his teenage years. Spoiler alert, teenage Nate was just as much of a trouble magnet as adult Nate. The environments are so detailed that you might find yourself staring at the screen, slack-jawed, as Nate narrowly escapes death for the umpteenth time. From the lush jungles to the dusty ruins, every scene is crafted with such care that you can almost feel the sand in your shoes. The character animations are top-notch, though occasionally they dip a toe into the uncanny valley. But hey, nobody's perfect, right? The sound design is another home run. The voice acting, led by the ever-charismatic Nolan North as Nate, is stellar. The banter between Nate and Sully is like listening to a buddy cop movie, with plenty of laughs and heartfelt moments. The soundtrack swells at just the right moments, making you feel like you're in the middle of a blockbuster movie. And the sound effects? Let's just say that when a grenade goes off, you'll be diving for cover in your living room. Gameplay-wise, Uncharted 3 is a roller coaster of action and adventure. The combat has been refined, with Nate now able to engage in fisticuffs with multiple enemies at once. The gunplay feels weighty and satisfying, though the new recoil system might have you spraying bullets like a stormtrooper at first. The puzzles are more intricate this time around, so be prepared to put on your thinking cap, grab your controller, channel your inner adventurer, and get ready to join Nate on his most thrilling quest yet.
And this vast expanse of imagination has a name. They call it LittleBigPlanet.
LittleBigPlanet 2, 2011. LittleBigPlanet 2 Inches is a delightful sequel that takes the charm and creativity of the original game to new heights. This game is all about unleashing your imagination and having a blast while doing it. The gameplay in LittleBigPlanet 2 Inches is a mix of platforming and an extensive creation mode. The story mode, while not the main focus, is a fun journey through 8 themed worlds with around 30 levels. You play as Sackboy, who must save Craftworld from the evil Negativitron. The levels are brilliantly designed, featuring a variety of gameplay styles, from traditional platforming to 2D shooters and top-down racing. The platforming mechanics have been refined, though the physics-based gameplay can still lead to some frustrating moments. However, these are few and far between, and the overall experience is incredibly satisfying, especially when playing in co-op mode with friends. Where LittleBigPlanet 2 truly shines is in its creation tools. The game gives you a bottomless toy box to create your own levels, games, and even movies. The options are overwhelming at first, but once you get the hang of the new tools, the possibilities are endless. You can create games in multiple genres, control objects remotely with the Controlinator, and program sackbots with different behaviors. The tutorials are helpful, but mastering the more advanced tools takes time and patience. However, the payoff is huge, as you can create some truly amazing and unique content. Graphically, LittleBigPlanet 2 maintains the crafty, do-it-yourself vibe of the original, with beautifully designed levels that are full of personality. The environments are colorful and detailed, and the character animations are smooth and expressive. The game's art style is imaginative, making every level a joy to explore. The audio in LittleBigPlanet 2 is equally impressive. The soundtrack is a mix of catchy tunes and atmospheric music that perfectly complements the game's visuals. Stephen Fry returns as the narrator, and while his voiceovers can sometimes feel a bit over, they add a lot of personality to the game. The sound effects are also well done, adding to the overall immersive experience. In conclusion, LittleBigPlanet 2 is thus a fantastic game that builds on the strengths of its predecessor. Demon's Souls, 2009. Demon's Souls is a game that has left a lasting impression on many gamers, and for good reason. This action RPG is known for its brutal difficulty, atmospheric world, and innovative gameplay mechanics. For a 2009 release, Demon's Souls looks pretty good, though it might not blow you away by today's standards. The game's visual design is more about creating a mood than showcasing cutting-edge technology. The environments are dark, foreboding, and meticulously crafted to make you feel like you're truly wandering through a cursed kingdom. Each area, from the ruins of Boletarian Palace to the eerie Tower of Latria, has its own unique and unsettling atmosphere. The character models and enemy designs are detailed enough to be impressive, especially the grotesque bosses that are as terrifying as they are challenging. The lighting and shadow effects add to the overall sense of dread, making every corner you turn a potential death trap. The plot of Demon's Souls is simple, yet effective. You play as a hero who ventures into the kingdom of Boletaria, which has been engulfed by a mysterious fog that brings with it hordes of demons. The story is told in a minimalist fashion, with much of the lore and background revealed through item descriptions and cryptic NPC dialogues. This approach leaves a lot to the player's imagination. The narrative isn't spoon-fed to you, which makes uncovering the story feel like a reward in itself. When it comes to sound, Demon's Souls excels in creating an immersive and tense atmosphere. The soundtrack is sparse but effective, with haunting orchestral pieces that kick in during boss fights and key moments. Most of the time, you'll be exploring in near silence, with only the sounds of your footsteps, the clanking of your armor, and the distant growls of enemies to keep you company. This lack of constant background music heightens the tension and makes every encounter feel more intense. The combat is slow, methodical, and punishing. Every enemy encounter requires careful planning and precise execution. Button mashing will get you nowhere. Instead, you need to learn enemy patterns, manage your stamina, and make every hit count. The game's unique death mechanic, where you lose all your collected souls, the game's currency, upon death and must retrieve them from your corpse, adds a layer of tension and risk to every moment. The level design is intricate and interconnected, with shortcuts and secrets that reward exploration and persistence. One of the most innovative aspects of Demon's Souls is its online component. Players can leave messages for each other, warning of dangers or hinting at secrets. You can also see the ghosts of other players and their bloodstains, which show how they died, giving you clues on how to avoid the same fate. Additionally, the game features a unique PvP system where other players can invade your game as Black Phantoms, adding an unpredictable human element to the already challenging experience. God of War 3, 2010. God of War 3 is like a roller coaster ride through ancient Greek mythology, but with way more blood and guts. This game is the grand finale of Kratos' epic revenge saga, and boy, does it deliver on all fronts. Even by today's standards, God of War 3 is a visual feast. The game kicks off with Kratos riding the Titan Gaia up Mount Olympus, and the sheer scale of this opening scene is jaw-dropping. The Titans are massive, the gods are imposing, and the environments are beautifully detailed. Whether you're slicing through hordes of enemies or solving intricate puzzles, the game looks stunning. The remastered version cranks things up to 1080p and 60 FPS, making the carnage even more glorious. Sure, some character models, looking at you, Pandora, might look a bit off, but overall, it's a visual treat. Kratos is on a mission to take down Zeus and the rest of the Olympian gods, and he's not taking any prisoners. The story picks up right where God of War 2 left off, with Kratos and Gaia scaling Mount Olympus. The narrative is straightforward but epic, filled with betrayal, vengeance, and a whole lot of god-killing. Kratos is as angry and relentless as ever, and while he might not be the most nuanced character, his sheer determination and rage drive the story forward. The ending might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it wraps up Kratos' journey in a fittingly brutal manner. The combat is fluid, brutal, and immensely satisfying. Kratos' Blades of Exile are a joy to wield, and the addition of new weapons like the Nemesis Whip and the Nemean Cestus keeps things fresh. The game mixes up combat with some clever puzzles and platforming sections, ensuring you never get bored. The quick-time events are as gruesome as ever, letting you finish off enemies in the most brutal ways possible. Just be prepared for some cheap deaths and unbalanced difficulty spikes, especially if you're playing on the hardest setting. The soundtrack is epic, perfectly complementing the game's grandiose scale. The voice acting is top-notch, with the sound effects being equally impressive. From the clash of weapons to the roars of defeated gods, every swing of Kratos' blades and every guttural scream adds to the immersive experience. Infamous 2009. Infamous is one of those games that grabs you by the collar and doesn't let go. This open-world action-adventure game puts you in the electrifying shoes of Cole Macrath, a bike messenger turned superhuman after a catastrophic explosion. Cole's electricity-based powers are a blast to use. Quite literally, you can shoot lightning bolts, create shockwaves, and even call down devastating lightning storms. The game offers a satisfying progression system where you unlock new abilities by restoring power to different parts of Empire City. The combat is fast-paced and keeps you on your toes, with a variety of enemies that ensure things never get too repetitive. However, the karma system, which dictates whether you play as a hero or a villain, feels a bit black and white. Your choices are often starkly good or evil, with little room for nuance, which can make the moral decisions feel a bit forced. Graphically, Infamous holds up well for a PS3 game. The city of Empire City is detailed and alive, with a gritty post-apocalyptic vibe that fits the game's tone perfectly. The cutscenes, presented as moving graphic novels, are a standout feature, adding a unique artistic flair to the storytelling. However, the in-game cutscenes using character models can feel a bit stiff and robotic, which occasionally breaks the immersion. There are also some technical issues like pop-in textures and occasional frame rate drops, but these are minor blemishes on an otherwise impressive visual. The plot of Infamous is engaging and filled with twists and turns. Cole's journey from an ordinary bike messenger to a super-powered savior or tyrant is compelling, driven by a strong narrative and well-developed characters. The story explores themes of power, responsibility, and destiny, culminating in a memorable twist that ties everything together beautifully. Audio-wise, Infamous hits the right notes. The sound design is top-notch, with each of Cole's powers having a distinct and satisfying sound. The soundtrack complements the game's atmosphere perfectly, with tracks that range from tense and ominous to triumphant and heroic. Voice acting is generally solid, though Cole's perpetually gravelly voice can feel a bit out of place when playing as a good guy. The ambient sounds of the city, from the cries of civilians to the hum of electrical equipment, help to create a living, breathing world that draws you in.
Ratchet and Clank Clank Future, A Crack in Time.
Ratchet and Clank Future, A Crack in Time, 2009. Ratchet and Clank Future, A Crack in Time is a delightful combo of platforming, puzzle solving, and action-packed shooting that continues the beloved series' tradition of fun and creativity. Picking up where Quest for Booty left off, the game kicks off with a charming cutscene featuring Captain Quark, ensuring that even newcomers can catch up on the story so far. The plot revolves around Ratchet's quest to find his best friend Clank, who has been abducted by the mysterious Zoni. Meanwhile, Clank is dealing with his own set of challenges in the enigmatic Great Clock. The narrative is engaging, with plenty of twists and turns, and introduces some memorable characters, including the compelling Alistair Azimuth. The story's emotional depth is a pleasant surprise, adding layers to the characters and their relationships. As mentioned before, the game offers good mix of platforming, shooting, and puzzle solving. Ratchet's arsenal of weapons is as imaginative as ever, featuring gadgets like the Sonic Eruptor, which uses an alien creature's mating call to unleash a devastating shockwave, and the Tesla Spikes, which create electrifying traps for enemies. The ability to customize weapons with mods adds another layer of depth, allowing players to tailor their arsenal to their playstyle. Clank's sections are more puzzle-oriented, utilizing his newfound ability to control time. These puzzles are cleverly designed, requiring players to record Clank's actions and play them back to solve complex challenges. The time-based mechanics are a standout feature, adding a fresh twist to the gameplay. Graphically, the game is stunning. The vibrant, colorful worlds are beautifully rendered, and the character animations are smooth and expressive. The cutscenes are particularly impressive, showcasing some of the best visuals seen on the PlayStation 3. While some players on forums noted that the graphics might not be a significant leap from Tools of Destruction, the overall presentation is still top-notch. The audio design is equally impressive. The voice acting is superb, with each character delivering their lines with perfect comedic timing. The soundtrack complements the action beautifully, with dynamic music that enhances the game's atmosphere. Sound effects, from the satisfying clink of collecting bolts to the explosive weapon sounds, are spot on and add to the immersive experience. One of the game's highlights is the freedom to explore space. Players can pilot Ratchet's ship to various mini-planets, each offering unique challenges and collectibles. This open-ended exploration adds a sense of adventure and discovery, making the galaxy feel alive and full of possibilities. Infamous 2, 2011. Infamous 2 is like a superhero roller coaster ride through the electrifying streets of New Marais. If you thought the first game was a zap, this sequel cranks up the voltage in every department. Let's start with the graphics. Sucker Punch, the studio, has outdone themselves, transforming the city into a vibrant, living world. New Marais is a visual treat, from the neon-lit red light district to the flood-ravaged areas reminiscent of post-Katrina New Orleans. The art style, especially in the cutscenes, is a delightful blend of comic book flair and gritty realism, making every moment feel like a panel from a graphic novel. It's like they took the original game, gave it a makeover, and then added a few more layers of polish for good measure. The plot picks up right where the first game left off. Cole McGrath, our electric hero, is licking his wounds after a brutal encounter with the Beast. He heads south to New Marais to power up and prepare for the next round. The story is a roller coaster of emotions, with deep character development and a cast that includes old friends like Zeke and new foes like Bertrand and his anti-conduit militia. The narrative is driven by your choices, leading to two dramatically different endings, so you might want to play through it twice to see both sides of the coin. When it comes to audio, Infamous 2 hits most of the right notes. The soundscape of New Marais is rich and immersive, from the bustling streets to the crackling of Cole's electric powers. The voice acting is top-notch, although some fans might miss Cole's original voice actor from the first game. The music complements the action perfectly, adding an extra layer of intensity to the already high-stakes gameplay. Speaking of gameplay, Cole's powers have been supercharged, and the addition of new abilities like ice and fire powers, depending on your choices, keeps things fresh and exciting. The combat system has been refined, with melee combat getting a significant upgrade thanks to the new weapon, the amp. It's incredibly satisfying to bash enemies with this electrified baton, even if the camera sometimes struggles to keep up with the action. Traversing the city is a joy, with improved climbing mechanics and new movement abilities that make getting around more fun than ever. The game also introduces user-generated content, UGC, allowing players to create and share their own missions. This feature adds a layer of replayability that could keep you coming back long after you've finished the main story. However, the UGC tools can be a bit cumbersome, so be prepared to invest some time if you want to create something truly special. Killzone II, 2009. Killzone 2 is like that challenge you were a bit scared to ride, but ended up loving every second of it. This first-person shooter is a visual and auditory feast, even if it occasionally stumbles in the storytelling department. First off, let's talk graphics. Killzone 2 is a stunner. The game's visuals are nothing short of breathtaking, with particle effects that make every explosion feel like a mini fireworks show. When an RPG shell detonates, dirt and dust fill the air, obscuring your vision in a way that's both annoying and impressively realistic. The lighting effects are top-notch, from the eerie glow of Helghast eyes to the dynamic shadows cast by every object. The environments are destructible, adding a layer of chaos to the already intense firefights. It's like a Michael Bay movie, but you're the star, and there's no need for a plot to get in the way of the action. Speaking of plot, Killzone 2 tries its best. You play as Sev, a member of Alpha Squad, tasked with taking the fight to the Helghast on their home turf of Helgen. The ISA, Interplanetary Strategic Alliance, is out for revenge after repelling the Helghast from their world, Vecta. The story touches on themes of fascism, revenge, and the cost of war. But let's be honest, you're here for the action, not a Shakespearean drama. The characters, including the ever-annoying Rico, are more like action figures than fully fleshed out humans. But they get the job done. The plot is serviceable, providing just enough context to keep you moving from one explosive set piece to the next. Now, the audio. If Killzone 2 were a band, it would be a heavy metal group with a liking for pyrotechnics. The sound design is phenomenal. The rattle of gunfire, the screams of the dying, and the thunderous explosions all come together in a symphony of destruction. The soundtrack is suitably epic, adding to the sense of scale and urgency. The voice acting, however, is a mixed bag. While Brian Cox delivers a menacing performance as Emperor Visari, the rest of the cast sounds like they're trying a bit too hard to be gritty and tough. With profanity thrown in, like it's going out of style, the controls have a weighty feel, making every shot and movement feel significant. The game's use of motion controls for actions like turning valves or steadying your sniper rifle adds a layer of immersion. The AI is smart and aggressive, especially on higher difficulty levels, where enemies will flank you, use grenades to flush you out, and generally make your life difficult. The variety of weapons and the need to manage recoil and burst fire add a layer of strategy to the gunplay. The campaign is a roller coaster of intense battles, ambushes, and vehicular sequences that keep you on the edge of your seat. Multiplayer is where Killzone 2 really flexes its muscles, with 6 classes to choose from, each with unique abilities that can be combined as you earn ribbons and medals. The multiplayer offers a deep and rewarding experience. Modes like Search and Destroy, Assassination, and Warzone provide plenty of variety, and the maps are well designed to encourage both strategic play and chaotic firefights. Whether you're a newcomer or a veteran, there's something here to keep you coming back for more. Gran Turismo 5, 2010. Gran Turismo 5 is like that classic car you've always dreamed of owning. It's got some shiny new parts, a few quirks, and a whole lot of personality. Imagine you're at a car show and you see a lineup of Ferraris and Lamborghinis that make your jaw drop. That's the premium cars in GT5. They're detailed down to the last bolt, and the new cockpit view makes you feel like you're actually behind the wheel. But then you turn the corner and see some old beaters that look like they've been dragged out of a PlayStation 2 junkyard. Yep, those are the standard cars. They're a bit rough around the edges, with jaggy textures and no interior views. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but when you're zooming down the track, the overall visual experience is still pretty impressive. GT5 is like a driving school that's both strict and rewarding. The driving physics are top-notch, making every race feel realistic. You can tweak the driving aids to suit your skill level, whether you're a newbie who needs a bit of extra grip or a seasoned pro who wants a pure, unfiltered driving experience. The game's GT Life mode is where you'll spend most of your time, starting with a budget car and working your way up to the big leagues. Special events like go-kart races and NASCAR challenges add some variety, but beware, the AI can be as oblivious as a distracted driver at a four-way stop. The audio in GT5 is a bit like a mixed playlist. The cars themselves sound fantastic, with engines roaring and tires screeching just like they should, but the soundtrack, let's just say it's an acquired taste. The game's music swings between forgettable rock and smooth jazz that feels more at home in an elevator than on a racetrack. Thankfully, you can swap out the tunes for your own custom soundtrack, which is a lifesaver. As for the plot, well, it's a racing game, so don't expect a deep narrative. The real story is your journey from a humble beginner to a racing legend. You'll start by buying a used car, scraping together enough credits to upgrade and buy better vehicles, and eventually taking on the toughest challenges the game has to offer. It's a classic rags to riches tale, told through the medium of high-speed races and meticulous car tuning. Resistance 3, 2011. Resistance 3 is like a hurricane ride through a post-apocalyptic theme park, complete with alien invaders, explosive weapons, and a plot that tugs at your heartstrings while simultaneously making you want to blow things up. Imagine you're Joseph Capelli, a former Sentinel who's now just trying to keep his family safe in a world overrun by the Chimera. The game throws you into a variety of intense scenarios, from large-scale battles to stealthy grassfield creeps. The arsenal at your disposal is nothing short of spectacular. Old favorites like the Auger and Bullseye return, and new toys like the Mutator, which makes enemies explode in a delightfully disgusting manner. Keep things fresh. Each weapon levels up the more you use it, unlocking upgrades that make you feel like a kid in a candy store of destruction. The plot is a dark, emotional journey. Capelli, now a family man, is roped into a desperate mission to close a wormhole, threatening to turn Earth into a frozen wasteland. The narrative is peppered with gut-wrenching moments, like Capelli saying goodbye to his family, which adds a surprising depth to the usual shoot-'em-up fare. The story's pacing is exceptional, keeping you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. The soundtrack perfectly complements the game's tone. It's a mix of somber, intimate pieces and intense, dramatic scores that elevate the emotional stakes and the tension of the gameplay. The sound design is equally impressive, with every weapon firing off satisfying blasts and every Chimera death accompanied by a gratifying growl. Graphics-wise, Resistance 3 is a bit of a mix. On one hand, the art direction is fantastic, with creepy environments like mines, caves, and prisons that really set the mood. The game uses fog, smoke, and dust effects to great effect, adding to the realism and immersion. However, the resolution drop and some blurry textures can be a bit jarring, especially if you're used to crisper visuals. Despite this, the overall visual experience is still compelling, thanks to the imaginative design of both the environments and the alien tech. Multiplayer in Resistance 3 is scaled down from its predecessor, but remains a blast. The 16-player cap makes for more personal and less chaotic matches, and the introduction of abilities adds a strategic layer to the combat. Whether you're spawning holograms of yourself or deploying floating shields, the multiplayer modes are varied and engaging. The co-op mode, now limited to 2 players, offers a more intimate experience that fits well with the game's narrative focus. Heavenly Sword, 2007. Heavenly Sword is like that flashy new kid in school who shows up with all the latest gadgets and a killer wardrobe, but still manages to trip over their own feet. This action-adventure game from Ninja Theory is a visual and auditory feast, but its gameplay can sometimes feel like a chore. Let's start with the graphics. Oh boy. The graphics. This game is a visual stunner, especially for its time. The character models are so detailed that you can almost see the pores on Nariko's face. The facial animations are top-notch, making the character's emotions feel real and engaging. It's like watching a high-budget animated movie, with the added bonus of being able to slice through hordes of enemies. The environments are lush and beautifully crafted, making you want to stop and smell the digital roses. However, the frame rate can sometimes take a nosedive, especially during the more intense battles, which can be a bit of a buzzkill. The plot of Heavenly Sword is your classic tale of revenge and redemption, with a few twists thrown in for good measure. You play as Nariko, a fierce red-headed warrior who wields the titular Heavenly Sword, a weapon so powerful it drains the life of its user. The story kicks off with Nariko fighting against the evil King Bohan. The narrative is engaging, if a bit predictable, but the stellar voice acting and motion capture performances really bring it to life. It's like watching a Shakespearean drama unfold, but with more decapitations. When it comes to audio, Heavenly Sword is a symphony of epic proportions. The soundtrack is filled with grand orchestral pieces that perfectly complement the game's Far Eastern theme. The sound effects are crisp and satisfying, especially when you're in the thick of battle. The voice acting is superb, with Andy Serkis stealing the show as the maniacal King Bohan. The dialogue is clear and well synced, making the cutscenes a joy to watch. It's the kind of game where you want to crank up the volume and let the sound wash over you. Now, let's talk gameplay. The combat system is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it's deep and satisfying, with 3 different stances that you can switch between on the fly. Each stance has its own set of moves, allowing for some pretty flashy combos. On the other hand, the combat can get repetitive, especially when you're fighting the same types of enemies over and over again. The lack of a dedicated block button can also be frustrating, as it forces you to rely on dodging and counterattacks. The boss battles are a highlight though, offering unique challenges that require a bit of strategy to overcome. The game also features some quick time events, QTEs, and puzzle sequences which can be hit or miss. The QTEs often require lightning-fast reflexes, which can be a bit unforgiving. The puzzles, while a nice change of pace, can sometimes feel like they're just there to pad out the game length. Speaking of length, Heavenly Sword is a bit on the short side, clocking in at around 6.5 hours. It's the kind of game you can finish in a single sitting, which might leave you wanting more.
What the hell is that? We need to evac now! Zed, I need
Killzone III, 2011. Killzone 3 is a first-person shooter that doesn't just put a gun in your hands. It makes you feel every step, every shot, and every explosion. The game picks up right where Killzone 2 left off, with our hero, Sev, and his ISA buddies stranded on the hostile Helgen homeworld, trying to survive against the relentless Helghast forces. Let's talk gameplay. Killzone 3 is a masterclass in visceral combat. The controls are tighter than your grandma's hugs, and every action feels weighty and grounded. Whether you're climbing ladders, taking cover, or blasting enemies with a variety of weapons, the game makes you feel like you're right there in the thick of it. The levels are beautifully varied, taking you from icy wastelands to lush jungles and even into space. And let's not forget the jetpacks and mechs, because who doesn't love strapping on a jetpack and raining down chaos from above? The game also spices things up with stealth sections and vehicle combat, ensuring you never get bored. Graphically, Killzone 3 is a stunner. The environments are richly detailed and immersive, making the Helgen homeworld feel both alien and eerily familiar. The game is brighter and more colorful than its predecessor, which helps to highlight the incredible level of detail in the environments and character models. The animations are top-notch, with enemies reacting realistically to being shot and environments crumbling under the weight of battle. It's a visual feast that makes every firefight feel epic. If you're looking for a deep, engaging story, you might want to temper your expectations. The narrative is alright, but feels like an afterthought, a way to string together the game's impressive set pieces. The characters are pretty one-dimensional, and the story jumps around in time, which can be a bit jarring. But let's be honest, you're not here for the story. You're here to blow stuff up. And on that front, Killzone 3 delivers in spades. The audio in Killzone 3 is a mix. The gunplay sounds fantastic, with each weapon having a distinct and satisfying sound. The soundtrack is epic and fitting for the game's grandiose battles. However, the voice acting can be a bit over the top, with characters shouting their lines like they're in a bad action movie. But hey, it adds to the game's charm and keeps the adrenaline pumping. Multiplayer is where Killzone 3 truly shines. The game offers several modes, including the new Operations mode, which features cinematic cutscenes starring the best players. The revamped leveling system is a welcome change, allowing you to spend points on the abilities you want rather than being locked into a class. The multiplayer maps are well designed, and the action is fast-paced and intense. Whether you're playing with friends or against bots, there's plenty of fun to be had.
If your city is being attacked by a massive deadly space armada, please press 3.
Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction, 2007. Ratchet and Clank Future. Tools of Destruction takes the beloved duo back to their roots, blending 80% shooting and 20% platforming into a concoction that's as explosive as it is delightful. Remember the arena battles from Deadlocked? They're back but scaled down, letting you focus more on the core action and less on repetitive showdowns. The gameplay is where this title truly shines. The weapons are a smorgasbord of creative chaos. Take the nano swarmers, for instance, tiny angry insects that swarm your enemies, or the magnet launcher, which traps foes in an electrified net, perfect for setting them up for a beatdown with the razor claws. And let's not forget the tornado launcher, though its 6-axis control might make you feel like you're trying to steer a tornado with a paper fan. The tiered hexagon upgrade system is a game changer, letting you customize your arsenal to your heart's content. And the new devices like the Groovatron Disco Ball add an extra layer of fun. Visually, Tools of Destruction is a feast for the eyes. It's easily one of the best looking games on the PS3, with vibrant, bustling environments that make every level feel alive. The frame rate holds steady even when the screen is packed with explosions, spaceships, and a horde of enemies. It's like watching a fireworks show while riding a roller coaster. Pure, unadulterated eye candy. The audio is just as impressive. The game is filled with little touches that show a high level of care and production value. From the intercom announcements on a fiery prison planet to the musical cues during pirate sequences, every sound adds to the immersive experience, and the voice acting top-notch. Captain Quark's buffoonery is at an all-time high, delivering one-liners that will make even the most stoic gamer chuckle. The plot, while more serious than previous entries, still retains the series' signature humor and charm. It delves into Ratchet's origins and the fate of the Lombaxes, adding a layer of depth to the story. Clank's mysterious visions of the Zoni add intrigue, and the relationship between Ratchet and Clank is both heartwarming and hilarious. The main villain, Tachyon, might not dethrone Dr. Nefarious as the best Ratchet villain, but the game's narrative is engaging enough to keep you hooked.
They will torture me if I fail.
God of War Ascension, 2013. God of War Ascension is a fascinating, albeit somewhat divisive entry in the iconic series. As a prequel, it explores a more introspective side of Kratos, focusing on his quest for redemption and freedom from Ares' influence. While this shift in narrative tone offers a fresh perspective, it doesn't quite pack the same punch as the revenge-driven sagas of previous games. The gameplay remains true to the series' fewest roots, delivering the visceral, combo-based combat that fans adore. Kratos wields his trusty Blades of Chaos, now imbued with elemental powers like fire, ice, and lightning, adding a strategic layer to the carnage. The combat is fluid and satisfying, with a mix of brutal finishers and quick-time events that keep the adrenaline pumping. However, some players might find the boss battles less challenging and formulaic compared to earlier titles. One of the most notable additions is the multiplayer mode, a first for the series. While it's an ambitious attempt to expand the game's appeal, it feels more like a curiosity than a core feature. The multiplayer combat is slower, and often devolves into button mashing, lacking the depth to keep players engaged long-term. Modes like Favor of the Gods and Trial of the Gods offer some fun, but the novelty wears off quickly. Visually, Ascension is a masterpiece. The graphics are stunning, with detailed environments and impressive lighting effects that bring ancient Greece to life. From the decrepit statues to the towering fire-breathing demons, every scene is a visual feast. The game's sense of scale is awe-inspiring, making you feel like a tiny warrior in a world of giants. However, the fixed camera angles can sometimes be a hindrance, especially during platforming sections. The audio design is equally impressive, with a powerful soundtrack that complements the epic battles and somber moments. The voice acting is solid, though the story's emotional impact is somewhat muted compared to previous games. The sound effects, from the clashing of blades to the roars of mythical beasts, are top-notch and add to the immersive experience. Despite its flaws, God of War Ascension is a worthy addition to the series.
For the very survival of mankind, this struggle, ladies and gentlemen, may now be for...
Resistance II, 2008. As a sequel to Resistance: Fall of Man, it continues the story of Nathan Hale, a soldier fighting against the alien Chimera invasion. The game offers a mix of single-player and multiplayer experiences, each with its own set of strengths and weaknesses. The gameplay in Resistance 2 is a thrilling ride from start to finish. The single-player campaign is packed with intense battles and jaw-dropping moments. The scale of the encounters is impressive, with massive enemies like the Kraken and Leviathan towering over the battlefield. The AI is smart and challenging, forcing players to adapt their tactics on the fly. The game also introduces new weapons, such as the powerful Magnum and the electrifying Marksman, which add variety to the combat. However, the decision to limit players to carrying only 2 weapons at a time and the shift to a regenerative health system did not sit well with fans of the original game. Visually, Resistance 2 is a mix. The environments are richly detailed and diverse, ranging from the devastated streets of Chicago to the eerie flesh pod-covered town of Twin Falls, Idaho. The game maintains a solid frame rate even during the most chaotic battles, which is a technical feat. However, some textures are noticeably low resolution, and there are occasional issues with texture pop-in and screen tearing. Despite these flaws, the overall presentation is immersive and engaging. The audio in Resistance 2 is a standout feature. The voice acting is solid, with characters like Dr. Malakoff delivering memorable performances. The ambient sounds, such as the unsettling noises emanating from flesh pods, add to the game's creepy atmosphere. The orchestral soundtrack complements the action well, enhancing the sense of urgency and scale during battles. The plot of Resistance 2 picks up where the first game left off, with Nathan Hale being transported to the United States to join the Sentinels, a group of super soldiers infused with the Chimera virus. The story is epic in scope, with humanity's last stand against the Chimera playing out across various American cities. However, the narrative is criticized for being underdeveloped and leaving many questions unanswered. The lack of a narrator like Rachel from the first game makes the story feel less cohesive, and some character arcs are introduced only to be quickly dropped. Where Resistance 2 truly shines is in its multiplayer modes. The game features both competitive and cooperative multiplayer, each offering a unique experience. The competitive mode supports up to 60 players in massive battles, with modes like Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, and Skirmish providing plenty of variety. The cooperative mode allows up to 8 players to team up and tackle missions parallel to the single-player campaign. Players can choose from 3 classes: Soldier, Medic, and Spec Ops, each with their own abilities and roles, making teamwork essential for success. Siren: Blood Curse, 2008. Siren: Blood Curse is a spine-chilling survival horror game that takes you on a wild ride through the cursed village of Hanuda. This game is a reimagining of the original Siren. The gameplay is a mix of stealth and survival horror, with a unique twist: the sight-jacking mechanic. This allows you to see through the eyes of nearby enemies, adding a layer of strategy and tension as you sneak past the terrifying Shibito. The game is divided into 12 episodic chapters, each with its own set of characters and challenges. While the controls can feel a bit clunky and the camera angles sometimes frustrating, the episodic structure keeps things fresh and engaging. You never know what kind of horror awaits you in the next chapter. Visually, Siren. Blood Curse is impressive. The Shibito, with their grotesque appearances and eerie behaviors, are particularly well designed and will haunt your nightmares. However, some environments can look a bit lackluster, especially when illuminated by your flashlight, and there are occasional issues with artifacting and pixelation during cutscenes. The audio in Siren, Blood Curse, is great. The sound design is top-notch, with plenty of creepy noises and unsettling effects that will keep you on edge. The voice acting is solid, but it's the haunting cries of the Shibito and the atmospheric score that really stand out. The music, with its mix of low chants, wails, and strings, perfectly complements the game's nightmarish setting and will stay with you long after you've put down the controller. The plot of Siren, Blood Curse, is a twisted and complex tale that unfolds through the perspectives of multiple characters. An American TV crew travels to Hanuda to investigate the urban legend of the vanished village, only to find themselves caught in a web of supernatural horror. The narrative jumps between different characters, each with their own story and struggles, which keeps things interesting and adds depth to the overall experience. While the story can be a bit convoluted at times, it's filled with enough twists and turns to keep you hooked. Overall, Siren. Blood Curse is a must-play for fans of survival horror. Its unique gameplay mechanics, eerie atmosphere, and engaging plot make it a standout title in the genre. Just be prepared for some frustrating controls and camera angles, and make sure you have a strong stomach for the game's more disturbing moments. Warhawk 2007. Alright folks, let's dive into the world of Warhawk on the PS3, a game that's been making waves for its intense multiplayer action and stunning visuals. If you're a fan of fast-paced, arcade-style shooters, buckle up because Warhawk is about to take you on a wild ride. First off, let's talk graphics. Warhawk delivers crisp, clean graphics that make the most of the PS3's capabilities. The draw distance is particularly impressive. You can hover thousands of feet above the ground in your Warhawk, surveying the entire battlefield before diving into the fray. The environments are vibrant and detailed, making every dogfight and ground skirmish a feast for the eyes. Now, onto the audio. The sound design in Warhawk is top-notch. Explosions, gunfire, and the roar of jet engines all come together to create an immersive warzone experience. The audio cues are not just for show. They play a crucial role in gameplay, helping you locate enemies and stay aware of the chaotic battlefield around you. Plot? Well, Warhawk doesn't really bother with one. This game is all about the multiplayer experience. There's no single-player campaign to speak of, which might be a bummer for some, but trust me, the multiplayer more than makes up for it. You choose between two factions, the Eucadians and the Chernovans, but this choice is purely cosmetic. The real meat of the game lies in its various multiplayer modes: deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture the flag, and zones. Each mode offers a different flavor of chaos, keeping the gameplay fresh and exciting. Speaking of gameplay, Warhawk shines brightest here. Whether you're on foot, in a vehicle, or soaring through the skies in a Warhawk, the action is intense and satisfying. The learning curve, especially for aerial combat, is steep, but once you get the hang of it, pulling off stunts and dodging missiles becomes incredibly rewarding. The game's balance is another highlight. Every weapon and vehicle has its strengths and weaknesses, creating a rock, paper, scissors dynamic that keeps battles interesting and strategic. However, it's not all smooth sailing. The ranking system has been a bit of a mess, with player progress sometimes getting erased due to bugs. This is a significant issue since ranking up unlocks new content like custom paint jobs and clothing. Tokyo Jungle 2012. Tokyo Jungle is a wild ride through a post-apocalyptic Tokyo, where humans have mysteriously vanished, leaving the city to be reclaimed by animals of all kinds. This game is a unique blend of survival and action that puts you in the paws of various creatures, from household pets to zoo animals and even dinosaurs. The plot is simple, yet intriguing. Humanity is gone, and the animals must fend for themselves in a city overrun by nature. The story mode provides some context through newspaper clippings and other collectibles that hint at the events leading to the human extinction. However, the real meat of the game lies in its survival mode, where your primary goal is to stay alive as long as possible. You start with basic animals like Pomeranians and deer, but as you progress, you unlock more formidable creatures like lions and tigers, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Gameplay in Tokyo Jungle is a frantic mix of hunting, scavenging, and mating. You need to manage your animal's health, hunger, and stamina while navigating the dangerous streets of Tokyo. Carnivores hunt smaller animals to stave off starvation, while herbivores must avoid predators and find edible plants. The game throws in random challenges and environmental hazards like toxic rain and food shortages, keeping you on your toes. The thrill of narrowly escaping a predator or successfully taking down a larger foe is immensely satisfying, making each playthrough a unique experience. The audio in Tokyo Jungle complements its chaotic gameplay perfectly. The sound effects of animals growling, birds chirping, and the ambient noise of a deserted city create an immersive atmosphere. The music is minimalistic, often taking a backseat to the sounds of the wild, which enhances the feeling of isolation and survival. Graphically, Tokyo Jungle may not be a visual masterpiece, but it has its charm. The overgrown, dilapidated Tokyo is depicted with a gritty, almost cartoonish style that suits the game's premise. The animals are well animated, and there's something undeniably amusing about seeing a deer wearing rain boots or a cat in a defensive sweater. The environments, though repetitive, are detailed enough to keep you engaged as you explore different parts of the city. Despite its repetitive nature and occasional difficulty spikes, Tokyo Jungle is a game that stands out for its originality and humor. It's not every day you get to play a survival game where you can pit a Pomeranian against a hyena or see a giraffe take on a bear. MotorStorm Apocalypse, 2011. MotorStorm Apocalypse is a wild ride that takes the chaos of racing to a whole new level. This game is all about embracing the mayhem of a city crumbling under natural disasters while you race through it. First off, the graphics in MotorStorm Apocalypse are a mixed bag, but mostly impressive. The game excels in creating a sense of destruction and chaos with its dynamic environments. Buildings collapse, bridges buckle, and the ground itself can give way beneath your wheels, all rendered with a level of detail that keeps the adrenaline pumping. The urban setting, while not as colorful as the tropical locales of its predecessors, still manages to impress with large-scale set pieces and destructible environments. However, some areas can appear a bit bland and lack the finer details that would make them truly pop. When it comes to gameplay, MotorStorm Apocalypse is all about fast-paced, frenetic racing. The game features a variety of vehicles, from nimble superbikes to hulking monster trucks, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. The multi-class racing is as chaotic as ever, with the added twist of environmental hazards that change the track layout in real time. Earthquakes, tornadoes, and other disasters keep you on your toes, making each race a thrilling experience. The boost system has been refined, cooling down when airborne, adding a strategic layer to the otherwise anarchic racing. The plot, while not the main focus of a racing game, is there to provide some context to the chaos. The single-player festival mode follows 3 different riders over 3 days, each offering a unique perspective on the story of a city in ruins. The narrative is delivered through motion comic cutscenes, which, while visually interesting, are not exactly Oscar-worthy. They serve their purpose, but are often skipped by players eager to get back to the action. Audio in MotorStorm Apocalypse is a high point, especially if you have a good sound system. The roar of engines, the crash of collapsing buildings, and the booming explosions all contribute to an immersive experience. The soundtrack, featuring a mix of dubstep and orchestral tracks, might not be to everyone's taste, but fits the game's intense atmosphere perfectly. The sound design helps to keep you engaged, making you feel like you're right in the middle of the destruction. Marvelous verdict. The legacy of exclusive games on the PlayStation, particularly the PlayStation 3, PS3, is significant and has played a crucial role in defining the console's identity and success. These exclusives have not only showcased the technical capabilities of the PS3, but also set high standards for storytelling, gameplay, and innovation in the gaming industry. More exclusives are yet to come in an effort to entice players to buy the PlayStation and keep the console wars alive. That's it for this marvelous video, guys and gals. See you all in the next one. The multi-class racing is as chaotic as ever.